Moving on, we have another interesting story, which is none other than the Njugush story. Okay, we all remember the drama started with Juakali criticizing Njugush for his comedy, saying he's not even that funny, starting to compare him to people like, you know, the Murphys and the rest, and it became a backlash on his part where people are like, no, you're doing too much. Don't be criticizing people in this way. If you are both artists, you're supposed to be supporting each other as opposed to putting each other down. And all of that drama kept going on. There was a back and forth between the two of them. There was a whole Twitter you know, taking sides thing that went on. And finally, it seems that they'd come to a compromise after a screenshot was shared by Abel Mutua, who actually showed a screenshot of him having spoken to Juakali. And according to the caption below that, it seems that they agreed that he was apologetic and that he shouldn't have gone that far, and so on and so forth. Regardless, the criticism shouldn't have been there to begin with. And I think Njugush has finally come up to actually voice his particular opinion about this. And I love, love, love it. As always, hilarious. And this is what he said. A cow cannot take criticism from a dog. A cow cannot take criticism from a dog. An elephant cannot take criticism from a fish. This is the point I take criticism. And he actually went on to explain this further by saying he does take criticism. When people said that they wanted to see Wakavinye on the show, on the TNT show a lot more, they started giving her more roles, more lines, more segments on the particular show. When people said things like, let's work on this, let's change this a little bit, let's do this better, instead of doing this, let's do this, he will listen. This is active criticism. This is constructive criticism. However, that is where he draws the line. If it is not constructive and if it is not related directly to his shows and the betterment of these shows, you are a cow and he is a dog. You're very different.
Exactly.
You are an elephant and he is a fish. You're very different, or vice versa, you know? And I love this kind of energy where you're being very clear about where your stance is, where you're standing, and it's not going to be shaken simply because you people are very different. And it's exactly what it is. Because honestly, how are a dog and a cow having the same life experiences? They're very different. They all do different things, live different lives, and they end up in different roles at the very end. Yeah. So let's not try and put our criticism on people if we have no experience in that particular line of work or whatever they do. If you don't know what they're doing, if you don't know how much it takes for them to create whatever they're creating, leave it alone. Yeah, watch from a distance. Okay, if you have creative and constructive criticism, offer it to them in private. There are avenues. People usually leave their email addresses on what? On their bios on social media. Send an email, private. You don't have to be there in the comment section spewing your realizations of, I don't know, the Big Bang Theory that you just discovered that this person can then apply. You know, leave it alone.
And I feel like this is the same problem with Eric Omondi, you know. Eric is very vocal about what is wrong in the music industry. Well, we have known him as a comedian, as an entertainer. So it usually doesn't make sense. You're like, okay, yes, you're criticizing these musicians. You're saying they're not putting in the work, but where is your contribution? You know, what song have you put out that sold millions? What song have you put out that is now internationally renowned? You know, and it just rubs you off the wrong way. It's like if somebody who has nothing to do with TV and media came and started telling us how to do our jobs, you'd be like, huh? Why? You're telling us as who, as what, for why, what was the reason? So yeah, focus on what you do best. I think Juakali should just focus his efforts on the music industry.
And clearly the podcast.
Pick out a musician and say, by there, your bars are weak. We would understand that. It's Juakali telling you that. But to come and tell a comedian that he's not fun, anyway. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It went far.
Yeah.
It went really
I was about
far.
to go somewhere.